morning, my brothers and sisters. On this, the latest and greatest in Spoilercast for video games with the Good Morning Guys podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about all things God of War Ragnarok. But first, thank you, Joiner, for joining us on this fine morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I am your host, the Brazilian Norseneer and transition loot lizard, Lucas Ham Swisher. Also with me, the judge, the jury, and executioner of Runes and Ravens, Patrick Novacell.
Trying to find those ravens sometimes difficult.
Oh, yes, they were. Trying to hit those, I almost said raisins.
I heard it through the grapevine.
It's a whole different game.
That is true. Trying to hit those ravens.
It's a PC mod.
All I can imagine is like they're perched up on like
with their glasses, their sunglasses going.
Odin's different in this
game. Oh man, already off track. That only took 10 seconds.
Good job.
Our final member of the GMG Quadfecta here tonight, the guy with cuddles with Fenrir in his heart, Brock's riddles on his brain, and tears mulligatawny soup in his old stomacho, Marc Boucher.
Indeed. Hello.
Indeed. Hello, my friend. It is so good to be with you guys. So good to talk about all things God of War Ragnarok. We're going to jump right into it, talking about God of War Ragnarok. Do you guys want to do? I can never decide if I just want to jump right into spoilers because it's called a spoiler cast. Do you want to do, just in case there's one or two people listening who have not played the game before, do we want to give our elevator review without a score?
First off, if you're listening to a God of War Ragnarok podcast at all, why are you here? Go play the game.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, play the game. That's my elevator pitch is play this game. It is one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
Please, if you haven't played 2018, play the God of War 2018 first, then play God of War Ragnarok.
Do not rely on the recap at the title screen for God of War Ragnarok. They skip so much information.
A lot.
Yeah, you want to play the game, play 2018, and then play this. It's all worth it. One of the greatest stories money can buy. Greatest stories in video games. Greatest stories of any story.
In all of entertainment.
Books, movies.
It's a good time to play it right now. Now is a good time to play.
Right now. Mm-hmm. So stop, pause, go away. You're not welcome here. We love you. All right,
if you want to get spoiled, stick around.
But if you don't care about getting spoiled, that's fine. If you want to read it real quick on Wikipedia, I guess, just so you have context for things we're going to talk about. I mean, I've been there. I've done that. So, so let's just jump into spoilers. We're going to save our reviews to the very end, and we're going to just jump right in. So to start, guys, I want to know, how did you handle the difficulty setting and the accessibility? Did you use any of the, like, just the gobs of stuff they throw at you where they're like, you can do this, you can change this, you can adjust this? How crazy did you get, Mark?
Yeah, well, for me, I played on easy.
For those confused, that's Patrick. I called Mark, but I wasn't fast enough.
Oh, you said Mark? I didn't hear that.
Fine. There's a delay, so it's fine. Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah. So I played on easy because with these kinds of games, like I enjoy the story more than anything else.
So you played Give Me Story.
Is that
because there were like 5 settings.
Give Me Grace. I think that's what it is.
Whatever the second one is.
Oh, you did that one? Okay.
That's
Give
easy,
Me Grace.
Right?
Well,
okay. So,
I guess. Yeah, I guess it's easy, and then there's the story mode, which is like
that's too easy.
Everybody's made
easy.
A paper mache.
Yeah.
On them, and they fall over.
I'd love to try that just to see how that works.
I just switched it to it today while I'm doing the extra stuff. I don't really feel like even having any difficulty with the extra stuff, so I put it on.
Yeah. And then the accessibility, I switched up the X and circle because I'm playing. I thought X was just more of an action button than circle.
Right.
And then I did the auto pickup. Outside of that, I might have done like walk on like on, but not like the lock on plus. So like there's a lot of weird accessibilities. It's like, hey, do you want it to be plus or do you want it to be regular? I'm like, I can't, based on the description, I can't really tell. Like I don't know which one is which.
Yeah.
So but yeah, those are the only ones I think I did.
Yeah, I was so late in the game, literally late in the game, when I think we had a conversation like, hey, did you turn on these accessibility settings? And I'm like, nope, didn't even know that was a thing.
No.
Yeah.
But I did turn on the auto pickup.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it. And I played it on Give Me Grace, because the difficulty settings are give me story, give me grace, give me balance, give me no mercy, and then give me God of War.
Mm-hmm.
And so I played on.
Wasn't even touching that.
Nope. So yeah, I did it on Give Me Grace, just enough to where there was some difficulty to it.
Yeah.
But enough to enjoy the story.
Yeah.
Like you said, Pat. And yeah, I was like 3/4 of the way through the game when I finally turned on auto pickup.
Well, I learned from Horizon Forbidden West to totally go for auto pickup right away, because picking up them tree branches and stuff in Horizon Forbidden West was just annoying to me after doing it 1,000 times. But with the auto, it was just like walk by and it's like auto grab. It's like kleptomaniac. And
it's like you're in a department store touching all the clothes as you're walking by.
It's like grab.
One thing that was weird is like you'll just be walking and all of a sudden it's like he just starts stomping.
Well, he does like stomps and squats. Like it's like he's just like all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I need to do a squat. And he just squats down.
Do we really need to do the animation with auto pickup? Just let them come to me.
Just pick it up. Like suck it into your body like Borderlands,
like auto pickup.
Yeah.
You got it.
Just slurp it up.
We don't need to do the animation.
Yeah, kudos to them with all the accessibility. I think that's great for those that have disabilities or issues with certain aspects of the game, with the feedback on the haptics, whatever. I'm glad they give that all those options to people.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into. We're going to try to like hit it in acts. I think there's like 3 acts to the story, really. And we're just going to kind of focus on each act so we don't just jump right to the end, because we need a little build up. We're not going to go detail by detail, story beat by story beat, but we want to give some justice to each moment because this story is masterfully told.
Yeah.
I went in definitely having no idea what was going to happen. Based off of 2018 game, there was some indication that Kratos was going to die. And then Atreus, it being revealed that Atreus's giant name was Loki, was kind of like, oh no, is he going to turn into a villain? Like that's one of the things that I really thought was going to happen. And I was really glad they didn't do it. It would have been so like, oh, he's Loki, so he's got to be a bad guy. He's got to be a trickster and all that stuff. So I was glad they deviated from that, but I definitely went in with that expectation that, oh no, Loki could be a villain by the end of the game.
Yeah.
So we get into the game. It's been 3 years. Kratos is older. Atreus is taller. His voice is less squeaky and deeper. And Freya still hates your guts, which I thought led to a cool opening, which we had seen in the trailer, but it was both an opening and it was the controls tutorial where you're duking it out with Freya and they're reminding you on how to parry, how to shield, how to heavy attack, light attack. I love this beginning. Just, the journey from the cave back to the house. What did you guys think of the first moments of the game, Marc?
Oh, it was fantastic. I loved. I love it when they weave tutorials into the actual story of the game and don't make it tedious like a lot of games. Like, oh, I gotta go through the tutorial first before I can actually start the game proper. No, it's actually you're in it. It's integrated. It's nice to have that refresh after not touching the game for so long.
It was like a quick time event, but mixed with the controls of the game. So it wasn't just like hit triangle, the meaningless triangle button, like hit a random button. No, it's hit the button that it does what it does. So
I mean, this was the most immediate thing I was concerned about was, their relationship with Freya, seeing as, he kind of killed her son and all that.
he kind of killed her son. Just kind of broke his neck. Yeah. But he kind of deserved it. So
that's fair. It's real fair. But it's interesting to see that sort of, even though some time had passed, it was pretty much a direct continuation. Other than lots and lots of snow.
Oh yeah,
old Fimbulwinter. Fimbulwinter.
It was close enough. Fimbulwinter, yes.
Yeah.
Flibberlobble. Yeah.
Fimbulwinter. There you go.
Yeah. Patrick, what did you think of this opening? Tell me that the first thing you did was throw and catch the axe.
Oh dang, man! Just throwing that axe out and just catching it again, man! It just felt so good again.
It feels so good.
I was worried that this game was going to be too similar,
right?
Yeah, to the first one, and it kind of felt like that at the beginning a little bit. I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I kind of expected this to look like and to be. But man, once you have that axe in your hand and you feel that come back to you, it just like, man, this is awesome. I absolutely love it. I thought it was a great opening scene. That was great.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It was great, and it transitioned like giving you that feel of, like, to me, throwing and catching the axe was just like coming home, which is what they do in the opening scene where they get home and you immediately see that they have pets, they have wolves, and and then the first heart-wrenching scene hits you.
Oh my gosh, first 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah. And yeah, Fenrir, one of their dogs, has not been eating and is sickly and then dies. And you're like, are you serious? And this was such like they did it in such a touching moment. And if anybody's ever lost an animal, ever lost a pet, you felt it. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, the dog died, moving on. It was like the music and the dog just felt so real. And then a very mysterious thing happened, which they did not pay off for many hours. But you see just this little wisp come out of Fenrir and disappear. And Kratos notices it and is like, did you see that? And Atreus is like, what are you talking about? And so what a very somber, just somber transition to the home with Kratos and Atreus. So from there, we jump right into getting to hang out with, I think... Oh, no, sorry. I almost jumped ahead. From there, kind of dealing with the fallout of Fenrir, one of their wolves passing away. They do a little bit of bickering, and they're a little frustrated with each other, and go into the first of many dream sequences. And we get to see Faye in person. What did you guys think of seeing Faye?
We get to see her in real life.
Yeah, hear her talk.
Or not real life, but like as a character.
Yeah. I mean, his dreams we eventually realized that his dreams were like reliving memories. So it was kind of like real life. And then he wakes up after that dream and his son is gone, goes looking for him. And he runs into this big, huge, giant bear that you get to fight. And you almost kill until you realize it is your son. Atreus has turned into a giant bear that almost, probably could have killed you. What an interesting first boss fight. I didn't think I was going to fight a bear for the first boss fight. But there it is. Huge bear beating him up. And then all of a sudden it's Atreus. You're like, what the heck is happening? This is awesome.
We're leaning into the shape-shifting.
Yeah, got the shape-shifting going. Makes sense. Totally fits Loki. And then from there we get to meet Thor and Odin. They show up. Thor comes by for drinks, kind of flaunting their weapons in front of each other. Odin tries to make a deal. And very much gave me, like, I could see where Baldur got some of his looks from. Odin. Odin was much thinner than I imagined he would be. Like,
Odin reminds me of George Carlin.
Yeah, totally. I think Tim Pollen said that on the Discord too, and he totally had a George Carlin look going. Yeah, for sure. And with that refusal to make a deal with Odin, we have our first boss fight, and what a boss fight this was. This boss fight did not hold any punches between Thor and Kratos, fighting back and forth. Thor totally just toying around with Kratos to the point where at one point you die, you can't get around it, and then he shocks you back to life.
He's like, "Oh no,
using Milnor." Yeah, and then they create like an ice lightning. And I mean, what did you guys think of this first fight? Any thoughts to share on?
It's getting a lot of Baldur vibes. That first fight.
Yeah, trying to recapture that a little bit.
Yeah, but I think they took it to the next level as much as they could. Yeah, and I love that touch of just like it goes to the death screen, and you're like, what just happened? And he's like, oh no, well, I'm not done with you yet, and shocks him.
Yeah.
But overall, I very much enjoyed this fight with Thor. It's interesting to see if you look at because a lot of these scenes I think are mocapped. I want to say,
I think they are.
It's interesting to see how much the characters look like the actual actors that play them.
Oh yeah, they totally.
Exception, I don't think Christopher Judge looks very much like Kratos.
No, they had to keep the Kratos look. I think they couldn't like merge his face with Kratos. That would have been a little weird.
If you look at Atreus, the actor who plays Atreus, and the actor who plays Faye.
Yeah,
the actor who
Odin,
plays Odin.
I totally recognize Odin's human,
and even like Thor,
real life actor,
face and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like they very much look like their characters, or they focused on that to make it look like that.
Yep,
so I thought that was cool,
masterfully done.
Yep.
So you have a little spat with Thor, and then they eventually leave, and you move on. And Kratos and Atreus are like, "All right, we need to figure out a game plan. We need to get out of here." And then Brock and Sindri save the day. They come in and introduce their mystical, cabin between the realms in the tree, I believe, at this point, if I remember right. So you visit their house. They offer you snacks, and Kratos is like, "We do not need a snack," and totally just knocks him down. Won't even take a snack. I totally would have taken a snack at that point. I think Atreus wanted a snack. But then from there, they decide to go on a quest to find Tyr, the Norse god of war, and that's pretty much the first third of the act is working with, finding Tyr in Svetlheim, finding out that he is actually Tyr, god of anti-war. He's a lover, not a fighter anymore. Yep. Totally just like knocks down the title of God of War by his actions and his attitude. And he, I was surprised he didn't like break out a yoga mat and just be like, you know what, I think we should have a little bit of meditation together before we, kill elves and leave this place.
Pat, this will blow you away. The voice of Tyr, Ben Prendergast, who is his old fuse, he's got a prezi for you.
No way.
Yeah. That blew me away. I was like, really? He's got some range, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other person that doesn't have range is Mirage. I think that's Roger Clark. Is that him?
Or Roger Craig Smith, yeah.
Roger Craig Smith. Yeah, he's also Sonic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this guy is. I can't help but think of Apex Legends playing Sonic. But yeah, I did not know it was that. I did not know. It was kind of like when I love it when actors do that, where they have so much range you don't even know. I think it's really good, really good.
So we rescue Tyr. We return back to Sindri's house, and we have some conversations. And all of a sudden, we are in control of Atreus for the first time ever. And we go on a little adventure with Sindri because Atreus is like, hey, guess what? We need to visit some old friends. So they go and they chatted up with the world serpent, Jojo, and they chatted up with Freya, Witch of the Woods.
That's a wonderful idea. Let's go after the goddess who wants to kill us.
who wants to at least kill Kratos. He's like, she won't hurt me, and she like wraps him.
Let me just put away this necklace that killed her.
She won't notice or feel the presence. It'll be fine.
Probably. I should probably not bring this at all, but hiding it'll be fine.
I'll just hide it here. They won't see it. So what did you guys think of controlling Atreus, bow and arrowing, the comedic relief of playing as Atreus and trying to break open certain caches or
I love it. He's
treasure chests?
He just punches it. He's like,
with this little toothpick arm. Like once he tried to do it, I was like, golly, Kratos is huge. Like you are so little.
So then from there, you basically have to pry the boxes open with your bow.
Yeah, he either beats it with the bow or he
pries it open. Yeah,
pries it open. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I was like, wow, is he gonna die here, or is he gonna get captured? Like, I wasn't sure that he was gonna get out of there alive. But I thought it was really cool how they just threw you into Atreus and you're controlling him. He has a whole new different move set than Kratos,
and a different feel.
It was so nice, so different. I love how they just threw them in there, just like other games, like where if you're Uncharted, Spider-Man, Last of Us, they throw other characters. You're not playing as the main character of the game. I love it when they do that. So this was just another one that just felt natural. I love that they threw that in there.
Yeah. And I think combining this with the one shot that they were doing, that they did in the first game and they continued in this one, I thought was masterful. The way they did the dream sequences with Kratos and Faye, the way they transitioned from Kratos to Atreus on a number of occasions, I just thought was really good. And it was just like, you kind of would get a feel it was coming, but to me, it was all timed pretty well. I know some people in like Discord or on social media, I heard people mention that they thought some of the Atreus parts were too long or whatever. And I thought it was well balanced for a game that is as long as it is. I didn't feel like it was. I think it took me 29 and a half hours, 30 hours to beat it, and it didn't feel that long. Speaking honestly, it did not drag on for me. But yeah, so you visit with those folks, and one of them is the World Serpent is vague but helpful, mentions Ironwood, and then just kind of leaves. And then Freya is not helpful whatsoever, which is no surprise. So you return back as Atreus, and then you transition back to Kratos, and it's off to Alfheim to find out about pretty much they're at this point going to all the giants' cabinets, prophecy cabinets, and finding that buried within the cabinets are more prophecies, secret prophecies. And so we go to Alfheim. We discover the fallout from what Kratos and Atreus did in the first game, where they took out the Dark Elves for the Light Elves. The Light Elves took over, and we discovered that the Light Elves are pretty ruthless, if not more ruthless than the Dark Elves. And so a lot of cool conversations, a lot of interesting conversations with Tyr, talking about perspective and war and peace and all of those things. It's at this point that they start introducing not some new enemies, but there is some more battling, but they introduce some new puzzles where you reflect some new gameplay elements, which I thought were cool. I really did enjoy reflecting the axe off of the pink stone and making it like whisk around enemies and pretty much automatically stun them. I was all about, I don't know how much you guys were down with the stunning of enemies in this game, but I was
do it sometimes.
I was doing it way more in this game than I did in the first game. Like I was all about stunning and then R3 and then just watching the animation unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I very much enjoyed the new elements, and I also love, and they do it at several points. I don't know how much they did this in God of War 2018, but whenever you do something wrong, there's dialogue.
Oh, really? Like what?
I can't remember what it is, but it's like, I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's
choose a different arrow. How about the different arrow?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't think that's going to help. I don't think we're going to be able to break through that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, Just little dialogues when you do it wrong.
Yeah, I love the commentary in general for things you were doing. Like when you were first exploring with Tyr joining the group, and as Kratos, you would go off the beaten path, find a treasure chest, and Tyr's like, "What is he doing? Why are you going that way? That's not the way we're supposed to go." And Atreus is like, "Oh, my dad does that. He explores and finds chests."
My dad loves loot.
Yeah, that was funny.
I love the commentary whenever like you're meant to go one way and then you decide to go another way, and they're like, "Oh, so I guess we're not going that way." Okay, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. Well, whatever you.
What are you doing over there?
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. Eventually, we find Groa's giant cupboard. We walk in and find out that Odin only knows some of the story for Ragnarok. He doesn't know the full story. That being that Asgard is going to be attacked by all the realms, led by seemingly the god of war, Tyr, and that a champion is going to be also fighting alongside them. And naturally, Tyr rejects this role. Kratos has already destroyed Olympus, so he's not really a big fan of destroying yet another group of gods. And then Atreus is all about being the champion. And then, the journey continues from there. And they argue some more. They return back to Sindri's house, argue some more. And then Atreus gets upset. He goes to take a nap because, really, what makes everything better? Taking a nap, I think.
Absolutely.
We can all agree that that's how it works. Takes a nap, and you wake up in Jotunheim. You wake up, well, you don't know it at the time, but you wake up in a new world, and you make a new friend, Agrabota, who is one of the last giants along with you. And you have a very long section, which is full of prophecy. And I would say this is the second act of really going up against prophecy, like fighting prophecy. The first act is finding Tyr. Second act is fighting prophecy. This is where you learn more. Atreus learns more about, Kratos is possibly going to die based on prophecy. He finds more about his story ahead, how he's going to go to Odin, which he does not want to. There was a lot of interesting things we did here. We picked fruit. We fought enemies. I think Agrabota, as your buddy, like pretty much throws paint cans at enemies. There's like colors going everywhere. What did you guys think of the Jotunheim section, Marc?
It was definitely intriguing the whole time, like wondering who this person really is and how she's somewhat tied into Atreus's destiny, if you will.
Yeah.
And I loved after there was some pretty heavy stuff previous to that, I want to say, and then they drop you in here, and it's really, really chill.
Yeah, laid back.
You're just helping Agrabota do all her little chores and
riding on a yak.
Yep.
She just does a little
yep
sing song yip thing to get the yak moving.
Yep. Agrabota's attacks are pretty cool. She would throw certain things and you could basically make those things explode. If you timed your arrows right and all that kind of stuff. I ship them. I ship Atreus and Agrabota. I think that should happen.
Yeah.
And I think they were heavily kind of hinting at that.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, overall it's really, really chill experience. Very interesting to know that, Atreus isn't the last giant. And that there is somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this part.
Yeah, what's interesting in this section, they introduce the giant, for lack of better terms, the giant marbles. Giant soul marbles that have a number of the giant souls that you realize that while Agrabota and Atreus are the last living giants, that they have giant souls in their hands, and Atreus is given responsibility over them. And it's interesting how that becomes a very important plot point. That whole idea of transferring souls, and he quote unquote gives birth to the world serpent by finding a dead snake in the house of Grilla, the grandma for Agrabota.
I was about to say they're not the last ones because of Grilla.
Well, yeah, that's true. Gorilla's also a last one. So the three of them comprise the last, quote unquote, of the giants. But so Atreus transfers a giant soul into a snake. He helps Angerboda stop Gorilla from killing more animals, and then eventually Soul Sucker with her little cauldron, and that was a fun little fight. That lady was so huge, like she was a real giant. I love the sense of scale in this game, like between Gorilla, later Garm. A lot of the scale was really cool in some of the boss fights and the interactions you have.
Yeah.
So then you return to Midgard, and of course you're trying to get back to Sindri's house as Atreus, and who walks through the doorway? None other than Kratos. And he's like, "Boy, what are you doing?" And before they can figure out what's going on, enter a Valkyrie. And let me tell you, I peed my pants when we got attacked by Valkyrie. There. Oh yeah, like Valkyrie Queen PTSD. I don't know about you guys, but I was feeling it. Patrick, what did you think about this Valkyrie fight that just came upon us in a rush?
Well, see, like this whole section in Jotunheim, leading up to the Valkyrie fight, I loved this. This was a lot of setup for the rest of the game, and reading those boards. And we haven't talked about these boards enough, and I think we need to focus on these boards.
All right, let's do it,
because they're all talking about fate, and they're all talking about things that have happened, that are going to happen, and they're all happening exactly the way they've been written, and that's exactly the way they've been drawn. And one of the ones that like he sees is he's holding Atreus is holding Kratos as he's is dying, or he's dead or whatever, and he wants to make sure that Kratos doesn't die, that they beat fate, and they figure out how to beat fate. But there's really based on the rest of the boards, there's absolutely no way that Kratos is going to be able to live after this. So that was an important, very, very important board that will lead up into the rest of the kind of the end of the game kind of thing. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I thought this was great. I loved that relationship building between Angerboda and Atreus. It was really awesome. That's another reason why this game is such a fantastic game, because they didn't just gloss over this. Like, they took their time with this whole with in Jotunheim. Like, he's napping, and this is an actual world. He's not really napping, but he's there. He's not supposed to be there, but he's there, and all this stuff is just, it's so good, so good. And but leading up to the Valkyrie fight, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, is this going to be another thing where I'm going to die and I'm going to come back to life like the beginning of the game where Thor brings Kratos back to life? Like, oh my goodness. Like, it was one of those things where the hardest parts of God of War 2018 were the Valkyrie fights.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah, they're so fast. And like, for me, I didn't realize it was Freya at the beginning. I just thought it was a random Valkyrie. Mm-hmm. And then that was the first time I used my resurrection stone. And then she got me down to within a sliver of my life. And then I thankfully got her down. I definitely almost died. That was an intense fight. And it winds up being Freya. She's got some of her power back, but then she stops and relents when Kratos, continues to defend his son and sacrifice himself for his son. And she realizes, you know what? Maybe you can help me out and free me from Midgard, because right now she's bound to. At that point, she was bound to the realm of Midgard. Mm-hmm. And so from here we break off, and Kratos has his first new buddy to fight alongside, and that is actually it's Brock, and then it's Freya. And I have to say, I really enjoyed not the constant, but the rhythmic switch up of, going between Kratos and Atreus, and then within those guys having different buddies that you can, press square, you can hold down square to do special moves, everything from, the typical Kratos and Atreus, Kratos and Freya, to then Atreus and Sindri, Brock helps out from time to time. Even at one point, Atreus has a sword named Ingrid that you get to use, and I really enjoyed. Did you guys have a favorite combo of two characters to use together?
Oh, I loved Ingrid. I loved like there's one where Ingrid just starts violently slashing it at the enemy. I loved using that, and some of these characters, like not just Atreus, but like Freya, and is there somebody else? Yeah, it was mainly Freya. You could level up your companions.
Yeah, I enjoyed that,
which was pretty cool. So they weren't just stuck to one type of ability. You could level them up and do different things with them.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that they gave them like a skill tree, just like you. They gave, when you would finish a scuffle, it would show like XP for Kratos and XP for Freya, or XP for Atreus. Right. That was cool. And so those were cool. My favorite was the parent duo. I just really like Kratos and Freya fighting together.
Yeah.
And as a mom and a dad, just working together. I was a big fan of that. How about you, Patrick?
I mean, they all had their special moments. But I like the Freya and Kratos. If it's very, very similar to Atreus. With Freya,
it is
very similar. So it's like you could switch them back and forth because they're using the same arrows, basically the same things. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, the reason I liked was more outside the gameplay and more about the conversation. I liked the varied conversation. Not that, Kratos and Atreus had really cool conversations. Of course, Mimir always adds his little bit. I just discovered there's I think I unlocked it, but I haven't used it yet, that there's a special move using Mimir as a weapon. And I don't know if you like hold him up but like lasers come out of his eyeballs. I haven't used it yet, but it was like I just found it like today, and like in a little bit of exploring after the main game. But yeah, so I'd be interested to see. I'll report back on the use of Mimir as a weapon. But it literally says in the description you can weaponize the head, like weaponize Mimir. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so they go on a journey through Vanaheim, I think it is. And you're fighting to release Freya from her bond to Midgard, and the main creature you have to kill and get past is Nidhogg. And this was a pretty intense fight, pretty fun fight, an in-your-face fight with a very large creature. Again, I love their use of space. They're like just feeling the size of something to where it's like larger than life, but you have a confined space in which to fight. It was really cool dynamics, really fun. And it ended with just off with his head. Poor Nidhogg, just lopping it right off.
Nice clean cut.
Yeah, some of them, just those animations, those fighting animations, like the R3 stun animations. There were some visceral ones. My favorite one is when Kratos would knock him to the ground and then kick him up with his foot, and then split him in half with his sword, his axe, and their two halves would just fly apart. I was like, oh, I could feel it every time.
I loved it when he took the sword from the enemy and just sliced them diagonally and just took his head off. Oh.
It was like Fruit Ninja.
I think the one animation I really like is when they're they're on the ground, and it's usually an enemy that has like some sort of an axe, and he basically plants it down into the enemy to cut their head off from the neck. That's pretty sweet. There was a couple of times where I would go into those R3 animations and Kristen would walk into the room. She'd like, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, he's God of War, not the God of Hugs.
Nope.
So
Nope.
Yeah, you'll have that.
Even though he was trying to not use violence and not kill people.
He's slightly chiller God of War.
He was definitely a chiller God of War. I appreciate that. Appreciated that growth.
And I and we'll probably touch on it more, but I love the overall evolution of the relationship between Kratos and Atreus.
Yeah.
Just how much they've been through and how much more, trusting and in sync that they are.
Yeah, for sure.
And how much, especially Kratos has grown as a character. You see that through all of their interactions throughout the game. I just think they did a great job with that sort of progression, and we'll probably touch more on it in the further points. But
yeah, and I mean, to this point, between Kratos and Atreus, like Kratos is very much saying over and over again, I want to protect my son. I don't want him to get hurt. I want to protect him. So if anybody's coming after him, I'm going to take them out. Yeah. And Atreus is like, let's go Ragnarok. Let's go. Let's fulfill prophecy. And he's going in headlong in adventure and glory and being the champion. And Kratos is like, calma, like just cool it, man. Let's take this one moment at a time. Hold the horses. And of course, they have a number of spats. And after this freeing of Freya from her bond, they have another spat where Atreus is suspected of visiting Odin already. And in response, Atreus runs away and visits Odin. Yeah. Like, wow, way to just play right into their hands. But
I literally yelled at the screen, "What are you doing?
You idiot.
You're an idiot."
Yeah. We get to see Charlie the Turtle, if we remember him from 2018, which how he's surviving in the snow, I don't understand. But he's doing it. Mm-hmm. He Atreus lights a little fire in his belly, and and then excuse me, we make it to Asgard for the first time, and we meet some townspeople, and they're like, "What are you up to?" And Atreus is like, "I'm just gonna go climb a wall," and he's like, "Well, I gotta watch this." See if he
giant wall.
You mean that one?
Yeah. And so we Nate Drake it up this wall, and it's a pretty tall wall. It took some time, definitely, to get up the wall. I think at this point, in Asgard they introduced the rune orb enemies, which I was not a fan of.
Yeah.
The whites and the like a borrow white. It's the enemies that you had to start with either physical or arrows and then switch it off depending on their form.
Yeah.
Not a fan of those, but eventually took them out. And then you get to the top and you meet pretty much the opposite of MCU's Heimdall.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The white, scrawny, like just totally mean version of Heimdall I never expected.
The only villain in the game that I just wanted to punch in the face every time he was on screen.
So he was your what's the dude from Horizon? He was your Silence. He was your Silence for this game.
No, Silence.
Silence. I despise
everything about him. But the Heimdall was he was just very pompous and egotistical because he was like untouchable. He was untouchable kind of thing, and so he was all in that character. But man, it was just. He was just so condescending, talking down to everybody. He was better than everybody else. He was. I mean, seriously, like he was like he could move around a conversation really quickly. Yeah, and very smart, very witty. But man, he was a jerk. Man, he was a jerk.
Huge jerk. Yeah. It made his death so satisfying.
Yes, it did.
Kratos could not kill him quick enough for me.
Nope, not at all. Yeah, so we're introduced to Heimdall, big jerk. We're introduced to Sif, aka Elena Fisher. And
goodness, I was like, "Hey, what? Hold on!" I paused.
Wait,
who is this? I was like, "Yes, that's who I remember her from."
Yeah, that was a bit jarring. I'll be honest. I think I played enough Uncharted to where I can't see her voice as anyone else than Elena Fisher. So. It was really weird. Like, Elena, how did you get here? Are you a Norse god now?
Speaking of the voice actors, when Faye came on screen for the first time, I was like, "Is that girl from Daredevil?"
Sure enough,
and it was.
Oh, is it?
The Daredevil Netflix show, and I'm like, wow, they did a fantastic job for me to recognize that is a real person. Like that's really cool how they mocap that.
For sure. They introduce Thrud, aka Merida from Brave.
Yes. I was like, all she needs is a Scottish accent, and then she's there.
I was like, you're speaking way too clearly. You're not doing that accent right. She definitely had the hair to match Merida's
I liked
hair.
her character. I really liked her.
I really did too. She was very sassy, very good natured. Just like I want to be a Valkyrie, and my grandpa's the best. And it's just like, okay, is he though? Is he? Then also at this point is when you are introduced to Ingrid, which was just such a charming little character that I never knew what she was saying. Like just like making. No, you didn't. It was just such a cool little character that they added in. Mm-hmm. And then at this point, we get introduced to the mystery of what Odin's really after. Yeah, we think he's this, huge, diabolical, evil god that's just tricking everyone into trying to kill and betray everyone, but really, he's after the mask. Somebody stop me!
The moment I saw that, I'm like, we're really doing this? Really, and I remembered that in the mask that this belonged to Loki. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yep. They did it. And so funnily enough about the mask, I didn't realize that the mask, this isn't the first time we see the mask. We see the mask when Atreus first takes a nap and goes to Jotunheim. But right before he goes to Jotunheim, I forgot to mention that he gets in this little dream area where he sees himself acting like a little snot and killing himself. But in that whole vision time, the mask is just floating there in the middle of
that drove me nuts in that scene. Whatever.
Oh my gosh. I was like, I forgot how annoying he was in the first game. I don't know if I can go back to listening to him being like, hey, Dad, I'm a god. Like just, no. I can't go back to that. Yeah, I know. I practiced a lot.
It was good
for that voice. Good. Thank you very much. So this mask is supposedly going to help Odin get into this green space-time continuum tear that is a source of knowledge and purpose and understanding, giving answers to his future. We don't know how he knows, and it's he needs it. He has to know. So he sends Atreus on a little adventure with Thor to Muspelheim. And so we get to hang out with Thor. We get to, use Ingrid as a side character. And let me tell you, I felt like Yondu, a.k.a. Mary Poppins. Yes. Like just whistling the sword around. And it's just like, yes. It was awesome. I agree with you, Mark. It was
also awesome when Atreus is like trying his hardest to defeat these enemies, and then Thor comes in. He's like, "I got it," and just hits him once.
Yeah,
and they're
like,
dead.
Look at me go! And then
every time I would hear,
"You're taking too long, son."
Every time I would hear Thor on in this game, even though I know it's not him, he reminds me so much of Josh Brolin.
Yes,
not even funny. I was waiting for him to be like,
totally see it.
This does put a smile.
I was like, he's very similar to the way Josh Brolin does Thanos.
Yeah.
Very similar, but it's like that brooding, like very heavy, deep voice, and it was good.
Yeah.
At first, I didn't like, because my mind, I'm thinking Thor from the Marvel, MCU,
right?
And this Thor is not even close to sounding, looking, or acting like the Thor. So it took me a little bit to get into this Thor, and their interpretation of Thor. And by the end of the game, I'm like, man, I loved this Thor character. Yeah. I loved what they did with him. Everything about him was fantastic.
Just in time for him to die.
Yep.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Yep. Spoilers. There you go. You knew it. You knew it was happening.
Oh, no. So. Now people are going to quit. They're going to hate us. They deleted it.
Just now.
No. They spoiled the ending 1 hour in.
Thor dies. Just like Iron Man. So at this point, you distract Thor by telling him to go try out Surtur's trials. And who shows up but none other than your gal pal, Angrboda. And she helps you stumble upon the next giant cupboard, which pretty much just shows what's going to happen to make Ragnarok happen. by combining Surtur with his wife, an ice giant of some kind.
Yeah.
And they combine to make Ragnarok, which will destroy Asgard. And so there you go. And he gets the other half of the mask, and then you return and to chat it up with Odin some more. Meanwhile, Kratos is on a different journey with Freya to track down the Norns, aka the tellers, the deciders of fate, past, present, and future. And once you get there, you have a little conversation. Actually,
creepy conversation.
A creepy conversation for sure, where they're like, they what do they do?
They're like talking through beads and then going through beads
and like coming in and out and like super creepy, super
they know
like
everything that the Kratos and Freya are gonna say.
Finishing each other's sandwiches, like that kind of stuff.
And as the man over here grunts. I love it.
I thought this was a pretty cool just interpretation of fate, where they say, we're not deciding fate. We're not like planning it out for you. We just know because you're predictable and you're one note. You're simple humans. And so we know what you're going to do. And so we're just telling it like it is. That's all. And pretty much for this, Kratos just wants to know how he can protect his son. So he finds out that Heimdall is going to kill his son, or is going to try to kill his son. So he says, you know what? That's all I need to know. And then they leave. I was very surprised that mission was really just, it was a walking simulator mission. Like you got on the little mermaid horse and went underwater, hung out with the Norns. There was no fight. There's no nothing. You just talk. I thought it was a really cool mission and scene, but very straightforward. And
basically he finds out what all of us already knew, and that was that Heimdall needed to die.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was like, he could have asked us. I would have told him real quick. So from there, forging destiny, Kratos ventures forth with Brock to make a weapon to defend Atreus and kill Heimdall. And this little journey with Brock was not just about fighting. It was also about riddles. And, Brock's giving little riddles, Mimir solving them. But at one point, I think this is when Mimir gets a riddle from Brock that he can't solve.
Yep.
And that riddle becomes important way later in the game. But I think it's what do you take away from and it grows, something like that. Yeah. What can you take away from that makes it grow, or something like that? Yeah. And he would give a bunch of options. There was one that I thought, oh, maybe that's it. And Brock's like, no, you're an idiot. I'm like, dang it. So I thought at this point, when you get to the forge, quote unquote, the Lady of the Mountain, which happens to be a mermaid that can forge weapons with her bare hands. What a touching moment when they don't get the blessing from the mermaid, and instead Kratos kneels down and repeats back to Brock what he's been saying about the forge when he asks for Brock's blessing. And Brock says, why would I give you my blessing? I don't even have a soul. Because at this point you find out that he doesn't have a soul. And Kratos says it's not the form of something that gives significance. It's its nature.
Nature, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's its nature. That really hit me. And I thought that was such a cool moment. Just Kratos really just paying respect to Brock in that moment. And then we get introduced to a new weapon. What did you think of the Draupner's spear, Marc? Fan? For or against?
It had its cool moments. That's probably the weapon that I used the least.
Yeah.
Of the three. It had its cool things in terms of solving puzzles and progressing through different levels, and also the fact that you could, throw several of them at an enemy and cause them to explode.
Tell you what, man, doing that was fun. Like tossing 5 of those and then just slamming down, and it's just like pop, 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 pop.
Yep. Yeah,
you could kill most enemies like that. It was fun from far away.
But yeah, that was probably the one weapon I used the least, because maybe it's because I didn't level it up enough.
Yeah,
but
that's why. You level it up, and it gets It stuns enemies the fastest of all the weapons.
Really?
So you can R3 everybody with it. It's nice. And it also is the secret to getting the ravens that are moving around really quickly.
Yep.
You just spear them up.
Gotcha. See, I only got some of the ravens. I didn't go for all of them. If I saw one, I was like, yeah, take care of that.
Okay. There you go.
And you're dead.
Yeah. What did you think of the spear, Patrick? Did you like
I loved it.
Like the addition?
Absolutely loved it. I could just throw these spears at enemies and make them explode. And then one of the upgrades you could do to the spear is you could charge it up and then throw it, and then it would work like it was Ingrid, or it was Ingrid, the sword. That was just like spin around and just hit them a whole bunch of times, stun them, and then I could just do it again and do it again. It was one of the easiest ways to kill multiple enemies. Is as soon as I hit that, I could go back, I could stun this guy, and I could stun that guy, and then I could finish them off.
And you get a stun, awesome. And you get a stun, and you get a stun.
And some of the skills, the additional skills that come up with it, you could rain these spears on them.
I was just going to say that was one of my favorites. It was
awesome.
The rain of spears.
Yeah, I always started off fights with the spear, always, because just to see how much I could damage I could do before I had to bring out the big guns, which was the axe and his Blades of Chaos, because really those were amazing. Blades of Chaos, I think I used the least. It was only dirt for crowd control. If I had multiple enemies around me, I would just spin it around. But overall, I love the drop near.
Yeah. I was also a big fan of the drop near, recognizing that the stun was strong. I would agree, Mark, that at the very beginning I was like, this is kind of weak. Like, it didn't really do a whole lot. The tossing the spears into the enemies and exploding it at the beginning, took off little chunks. And I was like, nah, man, I got this axe. I got these Blades of Chaos that just rock fools. Like when you would build up eventually you can unlock the skill that when you build up your hits without being hit yourself, you could activate the elemental side of the weapon. And that melted fools. That was real fun to use. I would just cycle through my runic abilities most of the time. I used all three weapons throughout the entire game. I loved the variety. I'm glad they added a new weapon. I loved the idea of the weapon being stored in a ring. Like, it's just like it just appears, and then you just use it, and then you just produce another one. Yeah. And I love the conversation where Brock's like, now you know how to use this? He's like, this is the first weapon I use, son. Like, just totally just telling him how this is the weapon of a Spartan. It is a spear. Come on. And so that was I love that whole journey and conversation between them. From there we zoom back to Loki, or Atreus, and Thrud, who are going to Hel, to Helheim, to get the last mask piece. And in doing so, somehow they release a large dog, a large rift realm-tearing dog that wreaks havoc on all the realms. And and old Garm, he makes a big mess. Loki being all, Atreus being all soft-hearted towards all animals, especially wolves, just couldn't help himself. And in the fallout, pretty much everybody's angry at him.
Everyone's like, what'd you do?
Yeah, that's pretty much, I felt so bad for him. And so he returns. He's just like, you know what? I'm done doing this. I failed big time. Odin's like, well, you're not a prisoner, so go ahead. And he returns back. And that's, again, like Patrick said, everybody except for Kratos, because Kratos has no idea what's happening. Everybody else is like, are you an idiot? What did you do? And Kratos is like, we're going to fix this. And so Kratos, after they have a little bit of reuniting and, rejuvenation of their relationship, they go back to Hell. We're like, we gotta deal with this Garm. And I thought this whole chase and this whole fight was great. It was the scale of it was huge. Like I couldn't imagine doing this fight in VR. Like seeing Garm at his full size, like just swiping at you when he swung his chain around at you. Like when he would get super close. I took many pictures of Garm / Mega Fenrir, and this was a cool ending to the fight because Atreus is trying to calm him down. It doesn't work. Kratos kills him. It doesn't work. He comes back, and then Atreus is like, wait a second. And then he shoves his knife into Garm, and the soul of Fenrir takes over. And all of a sudden, he's a little puppy dog.
I like how they set that up earlier in the game.
So subtly.
Where it's just like it's like you know you have a soul in your knife. And he's like, and then that's pretty much all they say.
Yeah.
And then when they bring that small little subtle hint and bring it back to bring Fenrir, back to life. Oh man, it was beautiful.
That was a cheering moment for me. I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Yes. And then jumping around like a dog, like, oh my gosh, it was so good.
My favorite part is when Kratos goes, sit.
Yep. That was mine too. I saved the video for that when Kratos is like, sit, and he sits, is like, poof, and like all the rocks shake. And you could just hear Kratos thinking, it really is Fenrir. It worked. Yeah. And so he's just like, home. And then Fenrir goes through a realm tear.
He's just like,
he just scratches the air, and green blob, and just goes through. It's like, okay, we did our job. Let's go back.
Yep.
One thing I forgot to mention about the reunion of Kratos and Atreus, and we've already kind of talked about this, but the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, father and son, is so beautiful. When you think Kratos is going to be super mad at Atreus running away, disappearing again, when they're reunited after he leaves Asgard for the first time, Kratos just looks at him and he says, "What should I call you?" And he doesn't say it in a way like with attitude, like, what do you want to be called? Loki or Atreus? Make up your mind. It's like, I'm going to trust in you. What do you want me to call you? And I'll call you that. I will accept you for who you are, for what you want to do, what you want to be. And then they hug. And I just think the path that they take is so beautiful of being better together, of learning from each other. And it continues later on. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Also, I want to point out that I'm Team Atreus. Like, I totally, everybody was ragging on him for freeing Garm. I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, this looks like a nice, seems like a nice doggy.
He was on his path, and he was like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Like he thought that was the right thing to do. Obviously it wasn't, but it ended up being all right. But yeah, I think it was just his naivete, his inexperience of doing things on his own. Sometimes you got to make mistakes to do better. And this was like Odin, like everyone else. It's like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? Odin's like, well, this was a big one, but yeah, like you got to make mistakes like this to learn from them and things like that. So this is a very important part to his growth.
Yeah, for sure. And then after Fenrir goes back, Kratos and Atreus have another heart-to-heart. They recommit to doing their best for each other, to be connected forever. And it's at this point that even Kratos apologizes to Atreus. And I love Atreus's response when he says, "Dad, don't be sorry, be better."
Oh man!
And he just
throwing it right back in his face.
What a callback!
Yeah, and you could just see his face like Zemo, be like,
"Yeah,
fair
enough,
fair enough. I deserve that." Yeah. So then from there we go to the next mission, Creatures of Prophecy. They go back to Vanaheim because they need to rescue Patrick's favorite named character, Freya's brother, Freyr.
My brother's name is Patricker, so
Patricker. Yeah, that makes sense.
And my sister's name is Patricka.
Patricka. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. My dad's name is Patrick E. And that's just, that's just the way it is.
Your mom's name, Patrickina. So
it only makes sense. They're very different names.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They are. So you're rescuing Freyr. You go to Vanaheim, and you get to finally kill Heimdall. What a fun boss fight!
It reminded me of Star Wars when Anakin Skywalker is getting beat up by Obi-Wan. He's just half broken. He's got flames. He's oh my goodness, like this just like like he's like one of those characters just want to punch in the face. And my goodness, and when you end up killing him, it's just like
they build it up too,
yelling like "I hate you," like that's what it felt like, and I'm like,
scratched a real good itch there.
It did, it so did.
Yeah, and they built it up well too, because even with Kratos at the beginning, like it didn't seem like the spear was even going to be enough.
And that's another thing. Even though Heimdall is one of the biggest jerks in all of video games, like really, for them to give me that emotion means they did a good job in creating that kind of a character,
a good villain,
creating that story arc for that character alone really made me kind of stand up and just pump my fist after he died. I'm like, this, man, the way they told that story, like if it was just a jerk and I ended up killing him, I'm like, yeah, get out of here. But it made me like internally cheer for Kratos and for Atreus and for the good of this game.
Yeah, because too, along with that, they show even amidst all the violence and Kratos being, himself, and really in the end, if they're not going to back down, he's not either, and he's going to demolish them. He keeps giving his enemies chances, and he does the same for Heimdall. And then Heimdall grows a glowy arm and continues to fight. And Kratos is like, all right, if that's how it's going to be, then guess what? You're gone. You're done. And takes him out. And from there, we have a really fun chase scene, running scene, where Kratos picks up Freyr and they just start booking it. And you start hitting buttons to like you almost like you're like using Freyr as a football, and you're like a running back as Kratos and just slamming through fools. And then we're
so late in the game and they just throw in like a new mechanic,
little mini game.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. And they not only throw in a new mechanic, but they throw in a new way of transport, where you get your floaty boat. I don't know what to call it.
Big old ship.
Big old blue floaty boat, and they just toss it out, and they're like, "Hey, we can fly!" And all of a sudden, you're in the clouds, getting attacked by dragons. Man with big sword screams real loud, and
he just jumps off the ship. He's like, for the land!
I was like, I just felt like someone in the movie being like, "Who is that again? Is that the new guy?" And they're all like, "Oh, he's dead." And Kratos is like, "He'll be fine."
It makes me think of that meme. If you've seen it's one of the guys from that BBC Top Gear show, Jeremy Clarkson. He's like, "Oh no." Well, anyway.
That's so sad. Moving on. It wasn't that big a deal.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a great description.
So from there, we go back to Sindri's house, the main hub, and they're like, "So what's next?" And Atreus is like, "I got to finish this mask, and we gotta get some answers and figure out how to stop Odin." So he does one last mask mission, hangs out with Thor for a little bit, gets the last mask piece. Thor almost kills him, and thankfully Sindri had given him a little ninja smoke ball, and he tosses it to the ground, and he's automatically transported back with the mask. And you're like, all right, let's go. We got the mask. We got our people. We just need to combine the realms. And how do we get into Asgard and take out Odin? And Tyr pipes up and is like, hey, I have an idea. I know of a secret way into Asgard.
Sure you do.
And Brock's like, bull crap you do. What is this? Yes. What is this new way you're talking about?
You have this. We're going through all of this other stuff for the last 20 hours. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I have a secret way in there. I'm like,
yeah, And Brock calls him out.
Calls him out. Yep.
And he gets stabbed in the chest for it. What a turn. Ooh. Tyr is not really Tyr. Tyr is Odin and has been Odin since the beginning.
Talk about wanting to punch somebody in the face.
Oh, man.
I was done with Odin at that point.
I did not see that coming at all.
No. Not at
I
all.
mean, I definitely felt Tyr was acting weird, but I never would have been like, that's not really Tyr. I was like, maybe Tyr has I thought Tyr had ulterior motives. I didn't think he was going to kill Brock, but I was like, he's up to something. And then they reveal it's Odin, and it's like, what? And then Brock dies.
It's interesting. Like I was watching a video from Corey Barlog,
Yeah.
and he was talking about like Odin shows up in different forms throughout the entire game. He's like, there's a secret that's like I haven't told anybody until now. There's a scene where you're in, I think it's Svartalheim, and you're on the boat in the dwarves area,
Yeah.
and you're going underneath a bridge, and there's this one dwarf that is walking over the bridge and turns and looks down at you in the boat and spits over the bridge at you. And he's like,
really?
That's Odin. I'm like,
what? That's crazy. Really?
So they have little things like that where
Interesting.
Odin's basically been following you guys the whole time.
Yeah, the shape-shifting of Odin, I don't know if I remembered that or knew that, but it definitely was a thing, and they totally reveal it here and just drop the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big bomb at that, for sure. So, yeah, Brock is dead. Tyr's actually Odin, and Plan B is put in place because Plan A was not going to work out.
Nope.
So now it's time to assemble all the folks from all the realms for Ragnarok. That's right. Norse realms assemble. Ragnarok assemble. So speaking of Ragnarok, we got to get Ragnarok going. So Kratos and Atreus go to Muspelheim to track down Surtur. And they find Surtur, who's not willing to cooperate at first because he doesn't want his wife, his ice giant wife, to be hurt. But he reveals a secret that his wife's heart is in his chest. Apparently, that's not the source of her life. So he's willing to sacrifice that and himself and leave her out of it. But pretty much as if he stabs the frozen heart with his blades of chaos, then he will turn into Ragnarok. And right when you do that, what shows up but 2 Valkyries that you have to fight simultaneously. What a duo fight this is. This was a fun fight.
Screaming internally the whole time.
And definitely not an easy fight, to say the least.
Right.
But maybe had one of the best duo fight moments with Kratos and Atreus where he turns into a bear and you guys are trading blows against the Valkyries, and it's just going back and forth. It's like a dance. You're pressing buttons, you're fighting, you're taking out the Valkyries. I definitely took some pictures here. What a moment.
Speaking of that, just a real quick thing, like side note for Atreus, like, in addition to becoming a bear, he also turns into a wolf.
He does turn into a wolf.
I loved, again, the dialogue reactions to like when you would turn into a wolf to whichever, like there was one time where I was with what is her name? Thrud? Yeah.
Thrud, yeah.
And you transform into a wolf for the first time, and you turn into a wolf? What?
Yeah.
And just her reaction. It's just those little details. Just always, that was so cool. And obviously, Atreus learns to control his abilities more and more throughout the game. Hence, we get to that whole scene with him, with Kratos and the bear.
Oh yeah,
that he can control it.
Yep. Yeah, it's super cool, super epic, and is a great end to that portion of the journey. Doing that, kind of being in that area between realms where it almost looked like the stars, like you're on it was a very mythical looking area. Really cool.
Yeah.
And then from there we journey into the final section of the game, the realms at war. And it all begins with a little nap time with Kratos. And, you're having that typical, everybody's gathered at Tyr's temple. And they're like, all right, everybody get your rest because tomorrow we're taking the fight to Odin. And, you hand off Mimir to his former deceased ex-wife Sigrun, where they, she wants to hear funny little stories from him. Kratos is joined by Atreus in the tent because he doesn't want to sleep alone. And Kratos tells him a story about a log carrying man, just totally random. Not sure where he got the story, but he just probably made it up on the spot. And then falls asleep. And you have one last meeting with Faye in the forest, kind of showing what started God of War 2018, where she says, I want you to take my ashes to the top of the highest point in all the realms. Mm-hmm. And so and she encourages him to open his heart, to love deeply, and you will find every reason to keep living in the world you're in, is the last thing she tells him in the dream. And that connects to then later on in the next section. But yeah, so General Kratos wakes up the next day and blows the horn, and all the realms join together to fight, including Ingrid, who is Freyr's sword. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that was cool.
Like, that was a cool moment, right? Where he calls his sword, and she just comes zipping up, and he just uses her masterfully. What a cool little fight that he can use Ingrid to fly, which I'm like, man, I wish Atreus would have known that when he was using Ingrid. That would have been awesome to fly around. Lots of fighting, lots of things falling apart, being destroyed. Sindri shows up and he destroys all the laser beams with one just little hammer thing.
Who is like super, super grief stricken at this point.
Oh yeah. He is not taking the Brock death very well at all.
And super angry with Atreus.
Yep. He's upset with pretty much everybody, but especially Atreus and Kratos, I think, just because they were such close friends, and he just is so very hurt. And then it's also at this point that they realize that Odin is using the Midgardians to kind of cushion the blow and die on his behalf. And so they adjust things, and they hold off Ragnarok for as long as possible. And then Kratos and Atreus attempt to penetrate the wall without Ragnarok getting too close. And of course, Sindri helps with that. They get in there, and you get to fight as Atreus in bear form, which was a little clunky, but still cool to get to control the bear and do the bear fight, where the rage meter didn't go down at all. You just kept fighting as the bear until all the enemies were gone. That was fun. And then Thrud shows up, Sif shows up, and you very quickly, as Atreus, convert them to the cause, breach the wall, and then we have our second big fight with Thor, between Thor and Kratos. And woo, what a fight this is. What a fight.
Epic fight. Like, this takes the first fight at the beginning of the game to a whole nother level, where you're throwing, like, he's throwing his Mjolnir and you're throwing your axe, and it's just creating this huge electric lightning storm. It was going back and forth with just regular gameplay fighting to cutscenes to quick time events, like such
seamlessly
masterfully done.
Yep. Yeah. One thing that's interesting in the background before you have the fight actually with Thor, you see Thor fighting Yaman, the world serpent.
Yeah.
And he actually sends him back in time in that moment. Like, you see him, the snake, you see the world serpent and Thor hit each other at the same time, and then the world serpent disappears. And that's the world serpent going back to the beginning of time and doing his thing, and then continuing the cycle of time. Mm-hmm. So that was a pretty interesting thing that happened. But yeah, back to the Thor fight is pretty epic. Mark, what did you think of the Thor fight? The conversations that they had as parents, Kratos trying to talk him out of it, talk him down.
Yeah, I was glad that ultimately, Thor, after like so many people are trying to talk sense into him, Thor goes back to drinking very heavily.
Yeah,
all that
multiple
kind of
times.
Stuff, multiple times.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff, and realizing just how much he's been used by Odin, and Odin isn't really, the person he thought he was, and Thor's already in a dark place, and so Kratos finally helps him realize that, he needs to do this for his family, for
Yep.
his daughter.
Yep.
And so this is a very impactful scene, and you either, it's that classic line, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And in this case, I would say that, at the very last moment, Thor dies a hero.
Yeah.
Because he finally realizes.
Yeah, Odin comes in. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Kill him."
Yeah.
Don't just sit there and kill him. Thor's like, "No."
Yeah.
And so Odin just stabs him.
Sends that spear right through him.
I'm like, "Oh my goodness. Like, really?
This is your kid."
Yeah.
This is your son, and you're so like power hungry and knowledge hungry that you're gonna kill your own son because he doesn't want to kill Kratos. Like, whoo, this was rough.
Yeah, it turned on a dime, like, because right before that, like you guys said, Thor had been turned. He had realized that he was wrong. Kratos said, "For the sake of our children, we must be better," and just totally got through to Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets impaled by Odin, and oof. And then Odin, he Mjolnir's Thrud right in the face, knocks her far away, and then the fight against Odin begins. I thought the final fight, but it's really the first part of the final fight. And after you fight Odin, and we can talk more about the Odin fight in the second half, in the second fight, because it's much more crazy and more complex. But this first fight ends with Freya intervening with the noose that she found on the tree in the when you're going after the Norns, and she gets that noose around him, mystically, and she has a little talk. It's just like, "You listen here, buddy. You have no power over me." And they have a little chat, and then he finds a way to throw a crow at her and distracts her, and the noose somehow is loosened, and they get knocked through the ground. And then Atreus is faced with a big decision, because for whatever reason, they get separated to the point where Odin's next to the tear, the green tear. Atreus has the mask, and Odin's like, "Let's go. Put the mask on. Fulfill your destiny. Let's find out what this is all about. Let's get the knowledge we need to make everything better." And Kratos is like, "I trust you. Make the decision."
Oh, man, what a moment. He's just standing over here, and he's like, "Whatever decision you're going to make, I support you.
Do it." Yeah.
And this is just a just now kind of thing. I was thinking, like, what would have been cool? But ultimately, I very much enjoyed the way that they went with it, giving you the actual choice.
Oh, yeah.
If
that would have been interesting, right?
To just destroy the mask, or to actually put the mask on and see what it is you would see.
I mean, there's a curious part of me. I really did want to know what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe he'll see what it is, and then he'll be like, "No, just kidding," and then break it.
It's gonna be a guy in a green.
Yeah, oh man, Jim Carrey.
It's gonna be the Green Ranger wearing his green denim jacket,
and it's the dog from The Mask wearing the green face.
The mask, the dog.
Milo.
Oh man, Milo.
Oh God, yeah. But yeah, no. Atreus makes the right decision. He breaks the mask in half, tosses it, destroys it, and definitely ticks off Odin in the process, who's not very happy with the decision. And then we have the real final fight against Odin, who's pretty tough. He's a pretty tough cookie for an old guy. So the fight, did you guys have any thoughts about the fight against Odin? I really enjoyed the combo of Atreus and Freya being together with you. And you had both their power moves, like both their hold square moves on the bottom right. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, having the both of them, like, it didn't make that on the particular difficulty level I put it on. It didn't make things too tremendously difficult. I mean, overall, it was a cool fight.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the really annoying part where all of a sudden he gets this super powerful shield, and like, really?
Oh yeah.
But otherwise, no. I thought this was a cool final final battle, and they're all getting to save their piece and, you know, sticking it to him. All the while he's trying to fight them off and all that kind of stuff. It's a cool little fight.
Yeah, and then you defeat him, and then at the end, Atreus gets the last conversation with him, and this is like, listen, man, just choose better, be better, stop. And he won't. And so he's like, that's unfortunate. And then he puts his soul. Wish he didn't say that, yeah. And then he puts his soul in one of those little marbles.
Yeah, but that moment when he's holding him in his arms,
right,
it goes back to
the moment to the prophecy, right?
Of the board. It's like, no, that wasn't Kratos. It was Odin that was on that board. It's still fate. It's still the same board, except they interpreted it wrong. It's not his dad. It's Odin. So I thought that was a really awesome.
He held him just the same way.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he goes into the giant orb.
Yeah, and it goes with the theme that they talk about throughout and after about how they're not giving into fate, they're not fighting against fate, they're choosing for themselves and they're choosing for each other what to do next, and it happens to be fate, but it also doesn't work out exactly the way they interpreted it, or even the giants interpreted it. So
yeah,
it's very cool. And so they have Odin's soul in a little marble. They kind of pass the marble around. What do you want to do with this? And
I love this.
And everybody's like, oh, I don't need it. I don't care. And then Sindri grabs it and puts it down. Hammer time. And just pops that baby immediately. No pause. Vengeance is it. And this is for Brock. So it was a very satisfying ending, to say the least, and really good. From there, Ragnarok has shown up, and Ragnarok's big sword is coming down very quickly. Freyr sacrifices himself for the sake of the group, using, Ingrid and Freyr sacrifice themselves, and the group escapes, and they wind up back in Midgard, and then you just get a nice time of conversations. Like, you wake up as Atreus, you walk down the hallway, you talk with a bunch of different people, have a bunch of different conversations, kind of like it reminded me very much of like an old school RPG or just old school video game, where it's like just that wind down time of reflection of, this is it, the last bit of just conversations, knowing that you're never all going to be together at once again. You're all going to go your separate ways and stuff. So it's really cool. Really cool. And you finish off meeting up with Kratos, and you guys get to see one last giant cupboard made by none other than Faye, who had hidden it from you. I think they said she had destroyed it, and then Agrabota put it back together or uncovered something of that nature. And it showed Atreus's path, and it showed not just Atreus's path, but you discover on the other side is Kratos's path, going from arriving in the Norse realms to then, in the end, not happening yet, being worshipped as a benevolent and good god with a statue and people honoring and admiring him, which is definitely not something he expected, for sure. And then you have the goodbyes between Kratos and Atreus, and the forehead to forehead moments, really touching, really just amazing, letting Atreus go and letting him go on his own adventure to find the other giants. What did you guys think of this ending between the two?
It's bittersweet for sure, because with all they've set up, there's going to be a third one now, but are they going to come back together? Is this going to be, how much time is going to pass? Are we going to be seeing a lot of Atreus going and finding these giants and all this kind of stuff?
Right.
So but it's bittersweet to see them like really part for an extended period of time. And probably the next time we see Atreus, he will be an adult, basically a young adult.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the first game and for a large majority of this game, Kratos is like, you're not ready.
Yep.
You're not ready. You're still learning. You have a lot to learn. You're still making these mistakes. And at the end, he's like, it's like, you're ready. And it was just like that moment. I'm like, oh,
bookended it.
Like, oh my gosh. Like, yes. Like he's letting his son has come of age, he's graduated high school. He's going off to college on his own, and being that kind of feeling that Kratos is having. He's like, I have to let him go. Like he's his own man now. Like we've saved the realms and we did it together. Like he's ready to go off on his own and find himself, find his heritage and things like that. I thought it was rough. As a dad, it was rough. Like, because my kids are still at home. And at that moment when I need to let my kid go, let them know that they're ready for the real world. Like I can only imagine the pain and anxiety that I'm going to incur and that. And I had that kind of emotion at this moment. And when just that moment when Atreus just leaves the screen as he's on his journey, I'm like, man, that is a rough moment. Like Kratos has had, if you know Kratos' history, he's lost his first family, he lost his wife, and now he's kind of like, he's not losing his son, but losing that like all always together, kind of thing. And it was a rough ending. Like very awesome ending, very well done. The story, like I said, the story in this game is hands down one of the best stories in all of games and all of entertainment. But it was very emotional ending, very emotional. I didn't shed a tear or anything, but it was just like, wow, this is good.
Yeah. And then you're met with essentially the first ending, because there's two endings.
This is a fun little way to do the credits, I think, for the first ending, where you're walking back as Kratos.
It was just like the first one.
Yeah.
That's true. They did do
going
that.
Down. Yeah.
You're walking in the snow. You're walking down, or not snow. You're walking down Jotunheim, right? Like the mountain of Jotunheim. Is that how they did it? I think. Yeah. But this one, you're having like more conversations with people, and they're saying hi to you, and and so then you think it's over because you saw the credits, but it's actually not over, because there's an epilogue, an extra ending called Viking Funeral, which you unlock by talking to the lady dwarf. Lunda, thank you. Talk to Lunda, and she tells you, hey, we're going to be having a memorial and a funeral for Brock. Come by the old tavern in Svartalheim, or wherever that's called. And you go there. You meet him in the bar, you say some nice words, and then you say, we're going to meet in another location. So you go to that location, and that's when they do the Viking funeral, sail off Brock, not before Sindri shows up at the last minute. And just in a heartbreaking, you could just see it in his eyes, see it in the atmosphere, Kratos trying to comfort him, and Sindri rejecting the comfort, and them pushing him off, and then Freya lighting the boat and saying goodbye to Brock.
Pinpoint accuracy, by the way.
Oh, I was thinking about while I was watching that. I was like, man, I would hate to be that guy that's trying to shoot the arrows at the boat.
That? Like, what
and
the
missing.
Heck?
Like in real life, there was a dude who just kept missing, and it just got awkward. And like they're just waiting.
Gunman over there.
No, hold on. Wait a minute.
Wait, let me try one more time. It's like, give me that. So. And then it's at this part that Mimir says the answer to the riddle, that what gets bigger the more you take away from it, and it's a hole. And kind of the symbolism of the hole in Sindri's heart from the loss of his brother. And then Sindri disappears. That was a bittersweet ending. And then it fades to black from there. And then you get the credits. I really hope they don't leave Sindri like this, like just broken.
Are there any other? Is there supposed to be some like third secret ending after you do the epilogue of completing the realms? If Sindri is going to say something,
I don't know. Not that I've heard of.
I'm not looking it up. I know I don't want to be spoiled by it, but I feel like there's got to be some sort of closure, because one one of the missions is the epilogue, and I haven't done like you have to do all these Asgard remains or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But
you have to do all the.
It's the epilogue. It's the main mission.
It's true.
So I don't know.
Maybe
we'll see. We'll see what that is. But I'm still continuing to play it. It's a very, very, very fun game. After the end, going through all the realms, and there's still as you're with Freya, and you're doing all these other side missions and favors and whatever. I had come across Fjord. Is that how you say her name? I can't remember. It's so hard. It's Thor's daughter, but she's sitting there on a log. She's sitting there on a log, and she's got Mjolnir on the ground.
Oh yeah,
and she's just talking to it or talking to herself. And Freya and Mimir and Kratos are talking about it, and then all of a sudden she just like lightnings away, and I'm okay. So she's the new god of thunder, I guess, or the goddess of thunder, or Lady Thor, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about this. I think this is far superior to 2018's God of War, is that after the story, when they give you the freedom to explore, like I think there's a bunch of extra stuff that you can explore and discover. One thing that I discovered in getting some seeds of realm seeds or Yggdrasil seeds from the eye patch squirrel guy, you can go to Jotunheim. You can go to the Giants realm with Kratos, and you can finally do exactly what I thought should have happened in Helheim when you first resurrected Fenrir. As Kratos, you can go to Fenrir in Jotunheim, and you can pet him.
Oh, no way! Oh, man, I gotta do that.
And you can say, good boy.
No.
He says it.
Good, because I was like, missed opportunity for him not saying good boy.
We were talking about it. We were talking about it.
And I was like, dang, it's totally missed opportunity.
You can do it. It's so good.
Amazing. See, that's the kind of stuff that they put in this game that just makes it leagues better than any other game.
Yeah. It's so good.
These writers, the way the direction of this, the way they had, it's so phenomenal. And point A to point Z, amazing.
Yep. So definitely explore all the areas. There are more discoveries to be made. And some of those, I'm not going to give spoilers. I'm just going to leave it. You need to explore, do the extra missions. There are so many cool things. Like I'm really excited to continue in the world with Freya and Mimir, see what we unlock, see what we find. What a game. What a game. All right. So we have reached the end. We need to give a rating, each of us. Marc, do you want to give your rating first? What do you give it?
It is 10 out of 10 Loki masks.
Okay. All right.
Absolute beautiful game. I have no problem saying this right now. Game of the year for me.
There you go. Game of the year. And is it better even with, or where does it compare to God of War 2018?
I'd say it's better.
Yeah. All right.
That being said, like God of War 2018
is an
absolute phenomenal game.
It's our number one game. So
yeah. But they managed to surpass that, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Patrick.
Yeah, God of War 2018. I mean, this is just as good as this game. If Ragnarok's not just a little bit better. But the reason why Ragnarok is so good is because you had that foundation of 2018.
Yeah.
You had it. It's unbelievable to have those. So it's like neck and neck, and like these the storytelling is a little bit different. It is a little bit more matured than the 2018 version, which is just, it leads to better relationships and the growth of Kratos and Atreus. Just seeing that growth and the way they've done it, so well done. The graphics are great. The mechanics, the controls, everything about this game. The skill tree. We didn't even talk about this. The skill tree. It is unassuming. Like, it's just like, hey, here's your skill trees. You can get them all. By the end of the game, you have them all. It's like, you know, it's not hard. You know, it's like you're not going through all these skill trees. It's like, all right, you have a little bit of this. Yeah. Just click on that. You're good.
Like, do you want stealthy Kratos or do you want aggressive Kratos or do you no?
Like, hey,
it's just
if it's like, hey, if you're more of a melee or if you're more of range, you can go over there. But by the time you're done with this, you're gonna have them all. So
yeah,
I thought that was very, very easy. The armor, the set, all that stuff was the same as 2018, so it was easy to get back into.
Right.
But yeah, this game is a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna 10 out of 10. Oh man, punches to Heimdall's face.
Yeah,
I like that. Yes, sir.
But yeah, 10 out of 10. Like Marc said, this is the game of the year. I think because of the story is the reason why it should be beat Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Elden Ring is great. I loved Elden Ring watching it. I'm not good at I couldn't play it. And I think that's a drawback. Like this God of War is accessible to any age. You can get in. You do not need to watch Fighting Cowboy to figure out how to beat a freaking video game for 100 hours. No, like this is, it wants you to be engrossed in the story, and it does a very, very good job.
Agreed.
One of the best, like story-driven games of all time. 10 out of 10 game of the year. Awesome.
And the way it's set up, you can make it like a Souls game. Like it's totally put it up on that God of War, give me God of War. You can do that.
You could,
but you don't have to. So yeah, I'm with you guys. 10 out of 10. It not better because God of War 2018 is not that as good, but it's just better than God of War 2018 because it builds upon it, like you said, Patrick, and then the intricate story, the heartfelt story. I think they do everything just better. They build upon it so well. They do it. I loved every single character, even Heimdall. I loved him in his own annoying punch him in the face sort of way. Yeah, like just totally. There was not a weak character in the bunch. Loved them all. So I give it 10 out of 10 frozen lightning bolts. It was
nice.
So good. So good. So yeah, I think other than that, we just have a couple joiners that wanted to share. Some joiners didn't have a whole lot to say because all they had to say, like, let me see here. On Twitter, Splig said, haven't played it yet. Sitting this one out. You better not sit it out forever. You better come back later, my friend. Let's see. Scary Terry's Dust at You Done Messed Up. Aaron said, I haven't played it or the prequel. At this point, it's in the Welp. Guess I just missed that one folder. LOL. No.
Oh, no.
No missing this.
No.
Get to it. Get to it, my friend. Better late than never. That's right.
Get it started.
Hey, Marc, I mean, you played all the Uncharted this year.
Yeah.
It's never too late to play a series like this.
Mm-hmm. Never too late. All right.
And I'm jealous because you were able to do it all right in a row.
Yeah, that's magical. Can you imagine playing God of War 2018 and then this one back to back? Like a huge epic tale.
Didn't have to wait 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. True all story. Right. Delvin Cox on Discord. Still pretty early in the game, about 8 hours in, but I really love the growth that both characters have shown so far. Kratos as a dad who wants the best for his son as well as to keep him safe. Then there's Atreus who is looking for his dad's approval as well as searching for answers of his own. You're gonna love Delvin how the story goes with the father-son. I love the father-son tale. Tim Pollen, Mr. Bacon. God of War Ragnarok. Oh my goodness, what a story. I still think 2018 is a better game, but man, what a follow-up. I can't wait to hear the Spoilercast. I may reach out privately to discuss. 9 out of 10 irritating barking monsters. There you go.
Love it. Love the scoring system.
Tim, you're welcome to reach out anytime to chat about it. And I would say pound for pound, like some of the big moments, like finding the Blades of Olympus or getting the Blades of Chaos, like some of those big story moments. And I think God of War 2018 being more dense, like condensed, it's shorter. So I can get where some people think it's better. But I will say going back, once you play Ragnarok, going back and listening to Atreus, I don't know that it's, I almost feel like it'll kind of make it tougher to play through the 2018. But but it's still all part of the story and still very good. So yeah, solid games. Wonderful story. So, all right. I think that concludes our God of War Ragnarok Spoilercast. If you do want to share with us your thoughts, it's never too late to do such a thing. So quick housekeeping to offer you towels, fluff pillows topped with Andy's candies, and tip you off on how you can connect with the GMGU. Twitter, Discord, Facebook, Instagram, all of those you can connect with us. If you'd rather connect visually or spectatorly, there's YouTube and Twitch. And then finally, Patreon and our merch page. You can support us and gear up with us. So click that one link to rule them all in the show notes, or you can type it out, linktr.com/thegmgpod. Of course, if you can't toss your attention or a coin to your podcasters, but are still the giving type, you can rate and review us on Apple Podcast and Podchaser and Spotify. It helps us reach new joiners through stars, exclamation marks, and your feedback. So let your voice be heard. Literally, if you like, 929 GMG Guys. Give us a call. Alrighty then, Pat and Mark, along with you, our beloved friends, family, and joiners, go get your good morning this week. And may God bless and guide your lives as you live, as you work, and as you be better.
Boy.